Okay, so this is lesson 79 for Algebra 2. These are piecewise functions. Piecewise functions that are pieces of other functions put together. So let me write out a piecewise function. F of x equals -2, 0, 2. And then you're given instructions. If x is less than -2, it's 0 if x is between -2 and 2, and then it's 2 if x is greater than 2. That's an example of a piecewise function. So you have your instructions for a piecewise function right here, and then these are your answers, or this is how you'll get your answers. This specific one is called a step function because it would just be straight steps if you were to graph it. So that's why it's called a step function. So what happens is sometimes you're asked to graph these. Sometimes you're asked to evaluate them. So we're going to do both on this one. We're going to evaluate first. Evaluate for x equaling -3, for x equaling 3, for x equals 0, and x equals 1.23. So those are the x's. And to evaluate a piecewise function, you've got to follow your instructions. So if x is less than -2, your answer is -2. If x is between -2 and 2, your answer is 0. If x is greater than 2, your answer is 2. So you look at your x's. So with the first x, it's x equals -3. So you take that -3 and you follow your instructions. -3 is less than -2, so your answer is -2. So if x equals -3, then your answer is -2, because that's what the piecewise function says that it is. Then x equals 3, so again, you following your instructions. 3, since x is 3 is not less than -2, so you don't use the first one. It's not between -2 and 2, so you don't use the middle one. It's greater than 2, so you use the last one. So if x equals 3, your answer is 2, because that's what your answer is. The answer to this function, these are the answers to the function, and these are how you find your answer, just figuring out if x is greater than 2 or between -2 and 2, that kind of thing. So then on the next one, x is 0. Well, 0 is not less than -2. 0 is between -2 and 2. So that means your answer is 0. So if x equals 0, your answer is 0. Because these are the answers. And then another one, 1.23. Well, 1.23 is between -2 and 2. So my answer is 0. So if x equals 1.23, then that gives me 0 as well. That's one way you evaluate. Well, that's the only way you evaluate a step function, and I'll show you a different piecewise function in a minute and how to evaluate it. So that's how you evaluate it. Now I'm going to show you how to graph it, and these can just be graphed on your regular sheet of paper. You don't have to do anything special. So, and this is going to show you why this is called a step function, because it's going to make steps. So if x is less than -2, so I find -2. So here's -2. If x is less than -2, so this way, we're talking about going this way, then y is -2. So we come up to -2 on the y, and if x is less than -2, y is -2. So that's what it looks like. It looks like a step. It just looks like an arrow going less than -2 at where y equals -2. Actually, that's not where y equals -2. Make sure you graph it correctly, like I didn't. Then if x is between -2 and 2, including -2 and 2, y is 0. So y is 0 right here. So from -2 to 2, y is 0, because that's where y is 0 on the x-axis. So that's your answer right there. And then if x is greater than 2, so here's open circle going greater than 2, and y is 2. So at 2, x is greater than 2. That's a step function. Okay, that's an example of a step function. That's what it looks like. It looks like steps. Need to find a better one than that. Okay, so let's try this one. F of x is 12 if x is less than 0. -5 if 0 is less than or equal to x less than 5. And 2 if x is greater than or equal to 5. Okay, so there's my function. It's going to be a step function. I'll show you here in a minute how you know if it's not a step function. So this is a step function. And we are going to evaluate this step function first. So we're going to evaluate it for x being -1, x being 7, x being 10, x being -2, x being 3, and x being 2.95. That's too close to 3. Oh well, you'll still get the idea. Okay, so if x is -1, we follow the instructions. X is -1, that's less than 0, so my answer is 12. X is 7, so x is 7, I follow my instructions. 7 is greater than or equal to 5. 7 is greater than or equal to 5, so that means my answer is 2. So if x equals 7, my answer is 2. Then my next one, x equals 10. X equals 10 is greater than 5 as well. 10 is greater than or equal to 5, so my answer is 2 again. Then my next one, x equals -2, so if x equals -2, -2 is less than 0. -2 is less than 0, so my answer is 12. Then x is 3. If x is 3, 3 is between 0 and 5, so my answer is -5. And then the last one I put down was x equals 2.95. 2.95 is between 0 and 5, so my answer again is -5. That's how you evaluate them. Your x's are your instructions. You follow your instructions. You follow the map and then find your answer, okay? So that's how that's evaluated. Now let's graph this step function. So my only y's are 12, so I'm going to go and put 12 on here. I'm going to put 2 on here, and I'm going to put -5. Those are my only y's, 12, 2, and -5. Now I've got to graph these things. So when y is 12, x is less than 0. So an open circle on where x is less than 0, and I go less than 0. So that's my x. My y is 12, and my x is less than 0, okay? Then for 2, x is greater than or equal to 5. So I come to about 5 right there. Greater than or equal to, I need a closed circle, and it's greater than or equal to 5. So then I go that way. Then for -5, it's between 0 and 5. So closed circle on 0, go to 5 with an open circle. So that's from 0 to 5. Again, a step function. Step, step, step. It's a step function, and that's why it's called a step function. When you just have numbers here for y, it's called a step function. Otherwise, it's just a regular piecewise function. Okay, so that's another example of stepwise functions. Okay, then this is an example of a piecewise function that is not a step function. The reason it's not a step function is because you don't have just plain numbers right here. You're actually going to have to use the x that you're given and plug in to find answers. Okay, so here's my piecewise function. It's 2x plus 1 if x is less than -1. It's -3x if x is between -1 and 2. And x squared minus 10 if x is greater than or equal to 2. So we're going to evaluate this. And the first evaluation we're going to do is we're going to use x equals -2. So my x is -2. So then again, I follow my instructions. Negative 2. Is negative 2 greater than or equal to 2? Is negative 2 between negative 1 and 2? Or is negative 2 less than negative 1? Negative 2 is less than negative 1. So that means we choose this function. Now it's not just an answer because it's got an x in there. So you have to take your x that's negative 2, plug it in to that function, and get the answer. So negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. So when x is negative 2, y is negative 3, or your answer is negative 3. Then x is 1. That's between negative 1 and 2. So if x is 1, it's between negative 1 and 2. So we use the second function, that negative 3x. So we would do negative 3 times 1 and get negative 3. Then say we've got x is 3. Well, 3 is greater than or equal to 2. 3 is greater than or equal to 2. So you take the 3 and you plug it into the last function, 3 squared minus 10, which is 9 minus 10, which is negative 1. So that's how you evaluate a piecewise function that is not a step function. This is not a step function because it doesn't have steps. These wouldn't graph just plain straight horizontal steps like we did on the other two, and we're not going to graph this one. My deal is I want you to be able to evaluate the stepwise functions because that's what the piecewise functions, that's what you're asked to do more often, is to evaluate them. So let's do another one to evaluate. Okay, so we're going to put evaluate first. We're going to evaluate this piecewise function. And this piecewise function is f of x equals x if x is less than or equal to 0, x squared if it's between 0 and 3, not including 0 and 3, so be careful with that, because this is where it goes if it equals 0. And then let's see, 3x if x is greater than or equal to 3. Again, this is not a step function. This is not a step function because it's got variables here where your y is. If these are just plain numbers, then it's a step function. Okay? So it's real easy to identify whether it's a step function without graphing it. If there are variables, it's not a step function. If there aren't variables here, it is a step function. Now we want to evaluate. So first evaluation, let's do x equals 5. So if x equals 5, 5 is greater than or equal to 3, so we do 3 times x. Those are our instructions. X equals 5. 5 is greater than or equal to 3, and so we do 3 times 5. And get 15. So that's my answer. If x equals 5, then y equals 15, or my answer is 15. Okay? Let's see. X equals 0. If x equals 0, well, I'm here. I'm not here because this doesn't equal 0. This one equals 0. This is less than or equal to 0. So if x equals 0, I'm right here, which means my answer is just x. Because that's what it is. It's just x. You just plug x in and you stop. Let's see, x equals 42. X equals 42. Well, if x equals 42, that's greater than or equal to 0, so 3 times 42. So what, that's 126, okay? Let's see, x equals 2. If x equals 2, that's between 0 and 3, so we do the x squared. So 2 squared is 4. That's how you evaluate your piecewise function. Let's do one more. Let's say that it is 0.5, that x is 0.5. 0.5 is between 0 and 3, so 0.5 squared is 0.25. Okay, so that's how you evaluate piecewise function. That's how you evaluate them. Okay, then I want to show you that's the lesson. That's the lesson. There's a few I want to show you on the warm-up and the practice. So let me go ahead and make the assignment. And I think I messed up on the MyMCS assignment, so make sure you use this assignment, not the assignment that I put on MyMCS, because I'm pretty sure I messed it up. Okay, so on the warm-up, we're going to talk about the warm-up. So you'll know about the warm-up when we get finished. On the practice, we're going to do some of the practice as well. It's only A through D. Then you're going to do 1 through 8, 12, 14, 20, and 30. I think on the MyMCS I put 22, but don't do 22. Do this right here. Don't do 22. And this is due the 2nd, April 2nd. This is due Thursday. So that'll give you enough time to get your notes down and that kind of stuff. Okay, so on the warm-up, there's at least one that I want to show you. Number 2, y equals negative 3x plus 2. This is a line. This is linear, and you're asked for the domain and range. Now, we've talked about it before, but it's, you know, it's been a while since you've been in class since we talked about this anything, so I just want to remind you that when it is a line, that your domain is all reals. And your range is all reals. For any line like that, your domain is all reals, your range is all reals. So just remember that. Number 3, skip. Don't do number 3. We actually haven't gotten to that stuff yet. I don't know why they gave it to you. So just don't worry about it. Although, let me remind you, so do write this down. This is what I want you to do. This is what I want you to remember for number 3. Remember how to find the vertex. Remember this is in vertex form. So your vertex, negative 2, comma 1. Remember that. Remember your axis of symmetry is x equals negative 2. Okay? Been a while since we've seen it. Been a while since we've been in class. So just reminding you, I don't want you to do what the book wants you to do. I'd want you to do this right here. And remember what that negative does? Makes it open down. So it gives it a maximum. And your maximum is y equals 1. So that's the kind of stuff. Just go over that, rethink through that, you know, just reminding you of that kind of stuff. But I don't want you to do, because we have not gone over that f of x greater than 0. We'll get there, but we haven't gone over that yet. But we have gone over this stuff, so I want to remind you of this stuff. So this is what I want to see on number 3 on the warm-up. So make sure you do this right here. Make sure you do this, because that's what I'll be looking for. And then number 4 is just writing the equation of the line. You should be good on that. Okay, then on the practice, I want to show you I want to show you how you write a piecewise function from a little table like that. It's got a table. It's the admission prices to an amusement park. Graph the piecewise function showing the admission cost for someone X years of age. So, and the little chart is age 6 and under, and then age 7 to 18, and then over 18. And then the price is 10, 20, and 25. So, on your piecewise function, your prices, 10, 20, and 25, those are your y's. So I'm going to have something at 25, I'm going to have something at 20, and I'm going to have something at 10, because those are my y's on the chart. So I go ahead and put the y's on the y-axis. Then the x's have to do with your ages. Well, 6 and under, it's $10, 6 and under. So that means on the x-axis from 6, we want to go from 0 age to 6. So if you're 6, you pay $10. And if you're anything less than 6, you pay $10. We don't go into negatives because we can't have a negative age. So 6 and under, that's how we represent 6 and under. Now this is going to be a step function. How do I know? Because my y's are numbers. I don't have any variables for my y's. Then from 7 to 18, so from 7 to 18. So what you're going to do here is you're going to go from 7 to 18. So 7, because we don't count like 6.5. When we do ages, we don't count 6.5, that kind of stuff. I mean, sometimes we say that, but you don't go to the movies and say I'm 6.5 and it's a different price. You're either 6 or you're 7. Okay. So then from 7 to 18, we're $20. So from 7 to 18, it's $20. And we close those circles in because if I'm 7, I pay $20. If I'm 18, I pay $20. Then for $25, if you're over 18, and we just go more than 18. So this is 7 to 18, this is 0 to 6, and this is 18 and older. So that's the way that step function looks, okay? Oh, you know what? We're not going to do D either. We're just going to do A through C on the practice. Okay, so there's A. B is evaluating. You should be good with that. I want to do C. So it says write a piecewise function. So let's see. I'm going to redraw this graph. It's in the book. It's in the Saxon book. And we've got an open circle here. And that looks like that is at -1. Okay. So here's Here's the function. It's a step function because they're just straight lines. A was a step function that we did. That was a step function. This is a step function. So what you want to do is you want to pick your y's. Those are first, -1 and 4. And you can call it f of x. So the first thing you do is put in your y's. You put in your answers. Now you give the directions. Well, this direction for 4 is if x is greater than or equal to 0, because right here x is 0. That's where x is 0. And then it's everything greater than that. So that's why my instructions are x greater than or equal to 0. Then to be -1, x has to be less than 0. It doesn't equal 0 here. It's an open circle, and it's everything less than 0. So that's the way that piecewise function is written for C. This is what you're given in the book, and this is the piecewise function for it. And again, we're only going to do A through C. We're not going to do D. And then 1 through 8, 12, 14, 20, and 30. And you should be good on these. Remember on number 4, it says what information can be known to use law of sines. You either have all 3 side links or you have 2 sides and the included angle. So that's the answer for number 4. Then on number 8, you're just going to do A on number 8. Number 8, just A. You're not going to do B or C. And you got a box in the shape of a rectangular prism 4x4 square base. So we've got a square base that's 4x4. And then the volume is 64 square roots of 6 feet cubed. You want to find the height of the box. So remember, volume is area of the base times the height. You should be able to find your area of the base very easily, and you're just going to divide the volume. You're going to do, if we want the height, it's volume divided by the area of the base. That's how you find the height, and that's all you want. Make sure you label it with feet. So you've got the volume right there. You can easily find the area of the base. It's a square. Area of a square is side squared, so that should give you the area of the base, and you just divide it. And you're going to leave it in radical form because there's nothing going to happen to that radical. So just know that radical stays in it, and make sure you label it with feet. So that'll get you number 8. Yeah, okay, you should be good. And then 30 is evaluating piecewise function. I went over that. So you should be good on this lesson. Again, it's due April 2nd. There you go.